Aloha, everybody. It is I, the great Clement, and today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to talk about South Park: The Stick of Truth for the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and PC. And South Park hasn't really had a good track record when it comes to video games. I remember, it's hard to believe this show's over like 15 years old now, but it's true. Because I remember when I was in junior high, I used to play South Park on the N64. Not really on purpose, mind you, mostly because we rented the game and we wanted to check it out, me and my friends, and it was basically a bad Turok clone where you constantly fought like turkeys and weird deformed mutants with snowballs that you could pee on and stuff, and that wasn't a very good game. The draw distance is terrible in that game, and then there was South Park Chef's Love Shack, which was sort of a game show Mario Party type game. It was okay. And then there was South Park Rally, which was like a Mario Kart game, only not nearly as good. And the only other South Park game I've played was South Park Tennerman's Revenge for the Xbox 360, which was a 2D platformer, and it wasn't terrible, mind you. It did have sort of a Sonic Unleashed Sun and Moon Metal thing, where you were constantly collecting all of these, like, electric orbs in order to progress to the next level. And it really wasn't all that funny, and it was just kind of forgettable, and I played it once, and I haven't really played it again since, but South Park doesn't really have the best track record when it comes to video games, is basically all I'm saying. Anyone who looks at Stick of Truth by the cover and previous history with South Park games, they might assume it's like the Family Guy game, or some of the lamer Simpsons games, like Simpsons Wrestling or whatever, and be like, oh, it's a TV cartoon game, it's gonna be crap, but absolutely not. South Park Stick of Truth is not only like the finest South Park game ever made, it's really, really solid of an RPG. This game was developed by Obsidian. Obsidian was responsible for Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, Fallout New Vegas, Alpha Protocol, which is a great underrated gem that I like to talk about all the time. And this game is basically the Paper Mario RPG, Mario Superstar Saga for Xbox, PlayStation, and the PC. You know, it plays very much like a action RPG in that Mario vein, you know? But what this game has going for it is, of course, the South Park humor. I've always liked South Park as a TV show. I've always thought it was really funny, and I don't really stay tuned to it. It's really hard to catch on TV. It's like literally only on one channel on my whole entire subscriber system, and that's like Comedy Network. And it only shows up maybe like one night a week. And I'm usually busy, so I don't really watch it then. But when I do catch it, it's really funny, and I like watching it. It's just I haven't really been catching up with it lately. But this game was super funny. I was constantly laughing at all the jokes. I can say safely that there are certain boss fights and situations you are put into this game. I've never done that in a video game before. I've never had to dodge giant balls coming towards my face before during a boss fight, so that happened. It's a really funny, really engaging game, and with the Paper Mario kind of RPG battle system it has, and the in-depth, like really in-depth customization elements to it, it's a game you can do multiple playthroughs of. Like, I did a second playthrough of South Park Stick of Truth before I did this vlog review. That's how much I liked this game, that I went back and did a second playthrough. It was so fun. So basically, here's the gist. You are a new kid in South Park. Your family's just moved in. You're apparently a mute, because you're a video game protagonist after all. Video game protagonists don't talk. Not in RPGs. And as the new kid, you get roped into Butters and Cartman's game of humans versus elves in a super fantastical fantasy war over the Stick of Truth, because whoever possesses the Stick of Truth controls the entire universe. At least according to these little kids and their childhood imagination. But as you progress through the game, the stakes get higher, and South Park actually becomes under attack by aliens containing a Nazi zombie alien goo, which turns people into Nazi zombies. And as the game goes on, you are solving all kinds of wacky quests, and the build-up for this game is pretty fantastic. What I love about this game, all of the cutscenes and everything looks exactly like the show. Like, You could make South Park Stick of Truth on Xbox One or Xbox 1080, whatever comes out after Xbox One, assuming Xbox is still making consoles. Or PlayStation 5, let's say. Nintendo U2. U2. You know, whatever. And it would still look like this because this is exactly how this game should look. It looks exactly like the show. It still has all the cardboard, you know, funny caricatures that's in the television show, and it looks perfect for what it's supposed to be. You know, graphics could not be more perfect. That is what South Park is. Therefore, boom, that's South Park to me. Again, when you go into the game and you customize your new kid, you can actually customize what he looks like. He can be white, he can be black, he could have a Jersey Shore tan, you could have him with a mohawk, you can change like the color of his hair, the color of his clothing that you get. Even like individual clothing that you find as equipment, like you could find like a SWAT uniform or like a priest outfit or whatever, like any outfit you could find. You can use actual dyes that you find throughout South Park to actually change the colors of that clothing as well. So always, constantly throughout the game, you have a sense of identity and a sense of customization in terms of appearance. You get like 4 classes to start off with when the game boots up. You can be a fighter, a mage, a thief, and a Jew. The only thing I would say about that situation is they really should tell you what each class is capable of when you're picking your party, because I'm adept with RPGs enough that I kind of know what a fighter, thief, mage kind of scenario is going to be. But going into South Park Stick of Truth, I didn't know what a Jew class was. What is that? And from what I understand, and I did the second playthrough with the Jew, so I do know what it's like, but I understand that it's like the more you're hurt, the more damage you do. And either way, he's got like these great like offensive attacks where he'll use the Sling of David to hurl a rock at people's faces, and it's really powerful and whatnot. And all of these classes play completely differently. Like, you're always going to have a different experience if you decide to go through the entire game as a fighter, or whether you decide to go through the entire game as a Jew. You're always getting a different experience depending on the class you are. And there are tons of party members to have in the game alongside you. You can have Butters, Kenny, Cartman, Kyle, Stan. What this game has going for it is that this is how you do exploration right, by the way. South Park is a rewarding exploration game. There are so many side quests that you can stumble onto. There are so many houses you can go into that are not necessary for plot, not even necessary for some of the side quests. Like, I can go into Butters' house, and yet there is no point at all to go into Butters' house for any of the quests. And, you know, you can find all kinds of trinkets, all kinds of items. Not only are you finding, like, equipment that's, like, different, like, torso, gloves, hats for your characters, different weapons, different ranged weapons for your characters, but you're also finding all these different perks, these strap-ons, as they call them, where you can strap something onto your bat so that it does, like, 50 more damage, or it causes fire damage, or it causes gross-out damage or something. There are so many different perks and different ways to customize the fighter you want to customize that it's kind of crazy, actually. There were so many tactics I discovered playing this game that kind of broke the game. And I guess I will say that that is the one problem about the game, is that some people have been saying the game's a little bit too easy. There's so many customization options that anyone who really uses their head and comes up with the best setup can really take advantage of it and just wipe out everything that they come across, you know? Like, there's a perk you get for getting a certain amount of friends where you get power points energy, which is basically your mana. Well, actually, farting is your mana, but I like to consider this the real mana abilities, because I don't really use the fart abilities all that much myself. But, you know, you restore power points, and how it happens is that whenever you restore health with a potion, you get power points with this perk. And when you have a party member like Butters, who automatically can heal you in one turn, like he pats you on the back 3 times and you get health from that, and that can happen, and then he can do a second move after that, so he has essentially unlimited healing every round that he's alive, right? And if you get that perk where you get power points every time you get health, then Butters is also refilling your magic points so that you can keep spamming your abilities too. There's a SWAT helmet where you put it on and, like, you will do an extra attack if you kill an enemy. So if I kill somebody and then he dies, boom, I can get another attack, and then I can do even more damage to the enemies that we're facing. Again, there's a lot of game-breaking, like, crazy customization perks in this game where by the end of the game, like, when I started the game, it was somewhat challenging. I was getting used to the basics. I was getting used to the timing of the action commands and whatnot, but by the end of it, when I was like level 15 and I had like maybe 2 hours left to go in the game, there was no fight I couldn't conquer. You know, I was just walking into fights, obliterating everything, and this was on like normal mode, you know? I wasn't playing casual mode, I was just playing normal mode, so if you want a real challenge, I guess you should bump it up to hardcore. But again, it's just the amount of customization. I actually loved walking around South Park. I loved visiting the church and finding Jesus. I loved going to Jimbo's gun shop and then accepting his side quest to kill certain wild animals and whatnot. I loved helping out City Walk with the Mongolian situation. Like, you always find side quests. And you know what I find hilarious about this game? But the ultimate, like, hardest boss in the game for me, you know, in other games it would be like Sephiroth, like Kingdom Hearts, or Kurt Ziza in Kingdom Hearts, or, you know, Ultima Weapon in Final Fantasy VII or some shit. The ultimate, like, hidden boss that you don't have to fight in order to beat the game for me was Al Gore. How many RPGs can you say Al Gore's the hardest motherfucker, man? Watch out for Al Gore. Him and his Secret Service guys, man, they're rough. So, you know, that's something else. This game has, again, a Paper Mario kind of battle system where you sort of have to time button presses whenever you come up to guys, so that whenever your sword flashes like a sparkle, you push A again and you do extra damage and whatnot. And I actually find that's a really satisfying thing to do. Again, these kind of systems can make or break a game. I love Mario RPG, I love Paper Mario, I love Superstar Saga, I love basically all the Mario RPGs. Those work out well. I hated Sonic Chronicles, because Sonic Chronicles was so dependent on the stylus, and so dependent on keeping the stylus in the little ring so that anything could happen, you know? But I think the action RPG stuff here works out pretty well. It's basically Paper Mario, but as South Park. And, you know, if you're gonna have an action RPG, you can't do any worse than copying Paper Mario. That game is friggin' awesome, so this game is friggin' awesome. Some people have said that the game is a little bit too short. I don't think it's too short. I think like a decent 12 to 15 hours is how long you're going to be going. I beat the game in 12 hours myself. And again, when I did a second playthrough, it did go by even faster, because now I knew where to go to solve certain side quests and whatnot. But I never felt like it was still a bad game, you know? I never felt like, oh man, that was too short. It felt like a decent length, and again, because of all the different classes, I just want to replay the game again. Now I want to try it as a mage. Now I want to try it as a thief. I don't care. This game's too fun. I will admit the jokes won't be as funny the second time around if you're watching the cutscenes, but if you're watching this game with a whole bunch of people who have never seen the game before, they're probably going to laugh their asses off at the cutscenes, and they're going to have a good time with it. And I absolutely recommend this one. This is a great, great RPG. It's not just a South Park game that happens to be good. Like, you could not be a fan of South Park, and this game has such an in-depth customization system with all kinds of different perks and all kinds of equipment choices that you're encouraged to explore, to find these things. You're encouraged to do side quests in order to raise your experience and get new perks and whatnot. You're encouraged to become friends with everybody in South Park so that they're on your Facebook page. Yeah, literally Facebook, that's what they call it. And so that you can have more perks and be more badass. And it's just a satisfying RPG. This is what a good RPG should do. You know, this is how a good RPG should handle walking around locations, solving pseudo puzzles where you have to, you know, tell Kenny to seduce some kid and flash his tits at them. Yeah, that happens. You know, I thought this is a pretty charming game. It's not the hardest game in the world, but it's funny. Really in-depth customization. Obsidian, this is probably their finest title yet in terms of quality. Although I do think it still has its technical fuck-ups. Oh my god. I don't know what it is about Obsidian. They really got to get some technical support in their developer, you know, place, because man, whether it's Alpha Protocol, New Vegas, KOTOR 2, they cannot seem to avoid glitches and problems like crazy, but it's weird. My first playthrough of South Park, I had no problems whatsoever. The game ran smoothly, I reached the final boss, and had no issues whatsoever. Then I'm doing my second playthrough as a Jew, and all of a sudden, battles would lock up. Like, I would just get into a battle, and I'd hit somebody, and then the battle would just stop. They would just be standing around doing nothing, and I was like, what's going on? I'm pushing buttons, nothing's happening, so I had to like pause and load the game over again. I had a weird thing where one time I saved a game and it restored back to an earlier checkpoint instead of the checkpoint I had just saved, and that was kind of weird. I kind of didn't like that. It only happened to me once, but I was like, I did not save here. I saved somewhere else. This is weird. And I know for a fact I saved, so I don't know. Some people, I've also been hearing that some of the animations kind of lock up, and sometimes the technical issues can be pretty bad. But again, for my first playthrough, I almost encountered none, and then in the second playthrough, I was encountering all of them. I don't know if it's because I was skipping cutscenes and that had something to do with it, but hopefully your first playthrough goes as smoothly as mine did. It's an Obsidian game, you're bound to find your technical screw-ups, but I don't think it was like game-breaking. I don't think it was like the worst thing ever to happen that it completely ruined the experience, you know? Again, it's a weird time we're living in where Final Fantasy comes out with such a mediocre title like Lightning Returns and 14 and All the Bravest and all this shit, and then you get Obsidian making a South Park licensed RPG, and it's by far just like 10 times better in every way, shape, and form. I absolutely recommend South Park: The Stick of Truth. It's incredibly satisfying to play. The customization elements are so good, and it's a funny game. What can I say? It's South Park. It's always funny. Obviously, it's not for kids, though. You know, there is nudity, there is jokes about racism and pedophilia, and the final area, there's a part where, well, you go into a rather gross place, and that's all I'm going to say. But it's not for the kids, even though it's kind of an easy Paper Mario type RPG. But absolutely, I recommend this one. South Park: The Stick of Truth was a great, freaking awesome game, and you all got to play it. And that's the bottom line, because the great Clement said so. So pick it up. Alrighty, toodles.